Hello viewers, welcome to our channel Education for Everyone, and in this video we are going to start with one new video series which is related to frequently asked questions in interviews on computer networking subject. So this series will contain 50 questions in total and each video will cover 10 questions at a time. And if you want to access presentation which is used in this video, you can access by going through the link description of this video. So let's start with the most basic question which is asked in interviews related to computer networking. That what is TCP/IP model? So TCP/IP model is a network model which allows communication between two or more machines which are present on the internet. Alright. And as most people confuse that how many layers are there in the TCP/IP model, so let me make sure that this should not be confused with any of other models. And TCP/IP model only contains 4 layers. Alright, 4 layers are only there in TCP/IP model, not 5 layers, 4 layers. First layer will be the link layer. After that, internet layer, then transport layer and application layer. Okay, so let's move on to the other question, that what is the difference between a popular model which is OSI model and TCP/IP model which we had discussed in previous slide. So what is the difference between these two models? So if we are talking about OSI model, it is more of a conceptual model, theoretical model, and which was not easy to be implemented. All right, but TCP/IP model was more of implementational model. We can build protocols on the basis of TCP/IP model. The other difference is that OSI model contains 7 layers, but TCP/IP model only contains 4 layers. And TCP/IP model is a standard protocol and which was used for network including the internet. Alright, so TCP/IP model can be used for any type of communications including internet. But OSI model is not a protocol, but it was a theoretical model which can be used as a reference model, and it is used for understanding and designing system architecture. So this was the difference between OSI model and TCP/IP model. Now the difference is that in TCP/IP model, the layer which was link layer contains 2 layers in the OSI model, which was physical layer and data link layer. So these 2 layer comprises of only one layer which is link layer in TCP/IP model, and in the same way network layer is termed as internet layer, transport layer is same in both the model, and in application layer of the TCP/IP model it contains 3 layers of OSI model. So let me make it clear that OSI model came after the TCP/IP model. So the usual question which is asked in interviews is that why OSI model was not successful? It came after TCP/IP model. What was lacking in new model which was already implemented in previous model? So there are not very much difference between TCP/IP model or OSI model. The main difference was that TCP/IP came first, so it was already implemented by the time when OSI model was proposed. Alright, the second and most major difference between OSI model and TCP/IP model was that in OSI model layers were not clear, and the protocols related to those layers, all of the layers, were not clearly defined at the time of proposal. And the third difference according to the business view is that in OSI model it was not showing much performance difference than that of TCP/IP model. So there will be no profit, no advantage of using a new model or implementing just a new model for the sake of very less performance difference. Alright, so this was the difference between OSI model and TCP/IP model. That's why OSI model was not successful. The next question is that why TCP is installed on TCP/IP? Why we are always saying TCP/IP? Why we don't say UDP/IP? So there is a reason behind that why TCP only is implemented on the top of IP. So we already knew that TCP is transport layer protocol, whereas IP is network layer protocol, and on the top of IP we implement TCP. So the main difference lies, or the main reason why TCP is used and not UDP is used on the top of IP is that because of reliability reasons. Alright, IP is unreliable protocol. It does not provide reliability to the network layer or to the connection between the two machines. So to provide reliability to the connection, we use TCP model or TCP protocol on the top of IP, which is failed or which UDP is failed to provide on the top of IP. That's why UDP is not used on the top of IP. And this question is mostly asked in all of the interviews, in technical, non-technical. Basically it is asked in all the interviews that what is the difference between switch, hub and router. So firstly I'll tell you once and all here and now that what are switch, hub and router. Okay, so let me change the pointer option here. So firstly I'll tell you what are switch and router, and then I'll move on to hubs. Okay, so what are switches and router? These are simply network devices, and these are simply very simple computers, okay, which are used to distinguish between different machines which are there in the network. So what I'm saying is that, let's suppose there is Bangalore area in which Koramangala is one region, okay, and Electronic City is another region. Okay, each area contains different houses. Okay, so Koramangala contains different house, and in Electronic City it will also contain different houses or offices. Okay, so firstly we have to make sure, or firstly we have to make the difference that what is Koramangala and what is Electronic City. And just like that, there are different areas which are there in Bangalore. Okay, so the entity which will make the difference between these areas, okay, these different network areas, this will be the router. Okay, router will act as interface between two different networks. So router will make the difference between networks. After that, on to give more granularity in the communication devices, we have to deploy one network entity which can distinguish between different houses in one area. Let's suppose in Electronic City there are 10,000 houses, so we have to keep track of all these 10,000 houses. For this we will deploy switches inside a network. Okay, so switch will be present inside the network. Okay, in switch will be inside the network, router will be outside the network. It will connect different networks, but switch will connect different nodes inside one network. Now the question arises is that what is hub? Okay, so a hub is just a dumb router. What it will do is that if it want to connect with a certain device, what it will do is that it will send the message to all the devices which are present in the network. What it will do, just like this is network 1. Okay, so if we connect a hub to all the devices, and suppose this A wants to access or wants to send a message to B, and there are three machines A, B, C. So what it will do is that it will take the message and it will copy the message into two entities, and it will send this message to all the computers or all the entities which are there inside this network in N1. And the intended machine, let's suppose A wants to contact to B, then in this case B will only send the reply to the hub, and this hub will revert the reply to A, and no other machine which is not intended by the sender, it will not give the reply to the sender. So this was the concept, this was the simple concept of the hub. So this is the difference between these three entities. What I had done, I had given you the explanation of switches, routers and hubs. So switch will be deployed inside the network, inside. Routers will be deployed outside the network, and hubs will be there anywhere in the network, outside the network. It will just forward the message to all the machines and revert the reply from the intended machine. In this case, if A is intended to give B any any packet or any message, then B will return the reply and it will be reverted from the hub to the sender. So let's move on to the other question. Yes. So in all the interviews, irrespective of whether they will ask computer networking or not, they will ask this question definitely, that what happens when we type google.com in the browser. Okay, and we have to know the basic concepts of computer networking to give this answer. So let's start with what happens, that you first of all you will type any domain name, let's suppose google.com in the browser. Okay, so any machine does not know any words. Google, it doesn't know, it only knows zeros and ones. So it will try to convert this google.com to any IP address which will be there in zeros and one. So where it will go, firstly it will check its local cache. Okay, it is also known as local DNS server. Okay, or local DNS. Firstly it will check whether the IP of this domain is present in its cache or not. If it is present or the IP is present in cache, it will directly take the IP from there and it will directly reach the server. Okay, but in the case if it is not present in the cache, what it will do, it will send a request to the DNS which is there in the network, which is closest to your network, and it will ask for the intended IP of this domain, in this case google.com. So let's suppose there is one IP 111.111. Let's suppose I am giving you some example, this is not the IP of google.com. So let's suppose DNS returns this IP 111.1.01. Okay, so this IP will be returned from the DNS. Okay, now what it will do, so with the help of browser, your machine will send a HTTP request. Okay, what it will do, it will send a message request in the form of HTTP request and it will send it to the server. After that, what server will do, it will send an HTTP response. What is there in the HTTP response? There will be different objects related to HTML, related to JavaScripts and all these things. So the browser will, what browser will do, this is the role of the browser, it will render the web page or it will render the response coming from the server. So it will come in the form of HTML. Okay, after that browser sends different requests or additional requests on the same IP or on the same server related to other objects it needs. Okay, so this will be reverted and it will again go to the server. It will ask for the response. The response will be received by the browser on the machine, and in the last the page will be loaded. Okay, so I don't think there is much clearer explanation which is there anywhere. So this is the explanation of google.com when it is typed on the browser. So the next question is, what is DHCP? So firstly, it stands for Dynamic Host Configurational Protocol, but it is not enough in the interviews. So what is the use of DHCP? So DHCP is simply a protocol which is applied, or which is what we can say applicable on all the or you can say which is applied on any switches or routers which are there in the network, and the simple use of DHCP is to provide IP address to all the nodes which are present in the network. So suppose this is the network and there are switches and routers. Okay, so this is router, not inside the network but it is outside the network. Okay, and these are switches. So let's suppose DHCP is implemented on this. Okay, so when it is implemented on this, the different computers which are there in this network, Okay, suppose there are mobiles also. So what it will do, this protocol will give the IP to all the networking devices which are there in this network. Okay, so this was the use of DHCP, and it increases or enhances the performance in the internet. And the other question is, which layer provides reliability? So the simple answer for this question, as I had already told you in the TCPIP model, that transport layer is the layer which provides reliability to the network. And what does error 403 means? 403 error just means forbidden error, means whatever the resource you are trying to access, you are not authorized to access those resources. Okay, you are not allowed to access those resources. And 403 is the status code which is returned by the server. So this is HTTP status code. That's why it is called error 403. And on which layer, so this is the last question of this video, that on which layer does SSL lie? So that's a very simple way to understand or to remember that on which layer SSL lies, that the successor or the newest version, the recent version of SSL is TLS. Okay, the TLS is as famous as SSL, and TLS full form is transport layer security. SSL full form is secure socket layer. Okay, so transport layer security, by this name only we can say that it is based or it is implemented on transport layer. Okay, so if you can remember PDNTA, this is the acronym for all the layers which are there in the TCP/IP model. So on the transport layer, SSL will be implemented. And what is the use of SSL? So use of SSL is just to make a secure connection, so the encryption and decryption keys are exchanged between two machines. So all right, so in the next video we will start with what is web browser. Okay, so my request from you is that, guys, to like, share and subscribe this channel so I can reach more number of candidates. And yeah, that's all for this video. Meet you in the next video. Till then, thank you.